my mouth. Give me a new song to sing. Fill it right now with the praise offering. Beautiful sound to you, Jesus the King. Open my mouth, open my mouth. Holy Spirit, fill me. You are the water, living, moving, cleansing. You are the water. Whoa, you awaken the dawn in the depths of my soul. Whoa, let the river of God be the spring of my song. Whoa, I will lift up my hands like the branches that grow. Whoa, recreate me again and again. Open my heart, give me the wine of your love. Fill me right up, overflowing my cup. A love that is new, following hard after you. Open my heart, open my heart. Whoa, you awaken the dawn in the depths of my soul. Whoa, let the river of God be the spring of my song. Whoa, I will lift up my hands like the branches that grow. Whoa, recreate me again and again and again.
Good morning, Ridge Church. We're so happy to see you today. We're just going to ask if there is a seat by you, by the wall, if you could just scooch closer to the wall so we can make space for more people coming in. That would be great. Stand up. Let's worship together this morning. People come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Whoa, whoa, child of God. Yes, I
I love that last song because it's about who God says we are. Not about who this world says we are, not about who we say we are. It's about who God says we are. That we're His children, that we're His sons and daughters. And I think sometimes it's so easy to forget who He calls us, who He says that we are. To forget that we've been adopted through the blood of Jesus to be His children. And so I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, I needed to hear that today, because as I go through each week, as I go through each day, sometimes even each minute of every day, I forget, and I get self-conscious. I get consumed with stress. I get consumed with what other people think of me. I get consumed with the fact that I don't measure up, or at least that I don't think that I measure up. And then God reminds me through a song like that, you are who I say you are. You're my child. You're my son. And I just think that's a beautiful reminder today. And it really leads well into this next song, because we've sang about who God says we are, and now we're going to sing about who God is, because we need that reminder too. We need to remember who He is, how mighty He is, how strong He is, how big He is, how loving and compassionate and caring He is. This song is called Waymaker. Some of you may know it, some of you may have heard it on the radio. But we're just going to go through the chorus real quick, teach this to you so that way you can sing along with us. It goes like this. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Sing that again. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Let's sing that again. You are here. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Waymaker. Sing it out, declare it. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, you are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Come on, let's sing it. That is who you are. Declare it. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you move. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Come on, let's sing it aloud. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Yeah. Oh, Father God, I thank you that you never stop working. I thank you that you're always moving, even when I don't see it, even when I don't feel it. I thank you that you always keep your promises, God. You always keep your promises. It's so important for us to hear that today, that you always keep your promises. You are a promise keeper. Going all the way back to day one of creation and fast forwarding all the way to the end of time, you will keep your promises. That you will make a way for us. That you will work miracles for us and in us, God. Oh God, just remind us today that even when we don't see it, even when we don't feel it, you're working. Because that is who you are. Let's sing this again. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Let's hear you guys. You take it. Come on. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. Never stop. Come on, let's sing it again. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. 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 Thank you, Lord.
Like Kevin said a few moments ago, every song that we sing is a song that we're singing to God. We're singing these to Him. And then there are songs that remind us of who we are, and then there are songs that are reminding us who God is. And as we're singing these songs to God, like God doesn't need a reminder as to who He is. He knows who He is. But sometimes we just need to be reminded of who He is. And that's a good promise. Amen? Amen. Will you pray with me? Father, thank you that you are our waymaker. God, that you keep your promises. God, you never give us empty words. So, Father, open our hearts. God, open our eyes to see. God, let us hear from you this morning in a fresh way. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Well, all right, you guys can have a seat. My name is Bobby. I'm one of the pastors here at the Ridge. We're so glad that you're with us here this morning at Ridge Church. Welcome back to our students. They're all caffeinated up, and so they're good to go for at least the next 45 minutes. Yeah, so, and then after that, they're all yours. So, so we're good to go. We're glad to have them back. Hey, if you are here for the first time, today's your first day here at Ridge Church. Special welcome to you. We're so glad that you are here. You literally could have been anywhere today, but you're here. We don't think that you're here by accident. We really do believe that you're here on purpose, that God literally made a way for you to be here. Even if you were like, no, I got up, I made the decision, like I drove myself, like I'm here. Think that all you want, but that's all right. Like, you are here, and we know that you are here, that God has a purpose for you being here. One real quick thing that I would love for you to do if you are new here today, I would really love for you to text the word hello to the number that you see on the screen here, 865-276-8107. Maybe, okay, it's not on the screen, sorry. But that's the number, 865-276-8107. Just text the word hello. You send that text message to us, you'll get a text back. There'll be a link there. Just follow the instructions. Super simple, really easy. This is just a quick and easy way for us to get to know you. You get to know us. You can ask questions there. You can let us know what your next step is. Maybe God speaks to you in a special way today, and you just want to let us know how we can pray with you, pray for you. You can do that all through that text number. So again, the word is hello to 276-8107. We would really love for you to do that. So in a moment, we're going to give together. There'll be some baskets by your rows. You can give that way, or you can give online at ridgegive.com if you choose to do that. If you are here for the first time, we don't want you to feel obligated at all to give. We're just glad that you are here. We want this to be a home for you. And so when it starts to feel like home, or if God just leads you in that way, then we would love for you to look into taking that next step. But we're just glad that you're here. So let's give together here in just a moment. I'm going to pray, but as the offering is being taken up, we're going to show a quick video here. In fact, Sean, let's not play the bumper video. Let's just play the youth video here in just a moment. But we're going to play a video from our student weekend. And so you're going to see a little bit, parents, you're going to get to see a little bit of what your kids got to experience. You guys are going to get to see yourselves on the screens, and we expect you to cheer when you see yourself. Okay. But you're going to see this and see how much fun they had. And look, if you have a student that is 6th grade through 12th grade, we would love for them to be part of our student ministry. They meet on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock right here. And look, if you are an adult and you're like, man, that looks like so much fun, I want to do that. Be a student ministry volunteer, and you can go and do that. Like, you can go do those things, right, Daniel, Erica? They can go do those things. And so take a look at this. We're going to take up our offering while this is playing, so be prepared for that. But watch this as it goes, then I'll come back and we'll hop into today's message. But let me pray first. Father, thank you for your generosity to us, God. Thank you for our students and their families and these student ministry volunteers that God gave up vacation time and their weekend and time away from their own families, God, to just pour into them. So, Father, we're thankful for that. And, God, we know that you've been moving and working in their lives. God, we pray that those moments won't just be moments of a time that took place one weekend, but those will be moments that are etched into forever and that move them forward in their faith, God, with you. And so, Father, we pray that as we take up our offering, even, God, that we honor you, that we give generously, sacrificially, and with glad, joyous hearts. In your name we pray. Amen.
Keep your head up, oh, you can let your head down. Yeah, that's what you do. So, but you gotta add one little motion to it. Gotta keep your head up, oh. Louder and louder, gonna hear my praises roll. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is the hour and heartbeat. Louder, and comes to fight for me. I'm gonna see.
This is one of my favorite stories of all times. I love. Oh yeah!
So I feel like I need to give a disclaimer. There were no students harmed in the making of this video, nor were there tattoos given, okay? So at least none that we know about. Now, what they did out in Gatlinburg, I can't help you with that. But anyway, nevertheless, they had a great time. I got to go up on Friday night and speak, and I know that myself and Daniel, like throughout the weekend, we kind of just unpacked Luke chapter 15 and the story of what has been lost, but what Jesus has found. And so it was a great weekend. I know that they had a great time. You guys have a good time? Yeah, good time. So really thank you, parents, for letting them go and trusting us to be able to take them and bring them back safely. Only a few tattoos, so it's cool. It's cool. It's good. But hey, if you have a Bible with you, open it up to Matthew. Actually, don't go to Matthew. Go to Mark. Let's go to Mark chapter 4 this morning. Mark chapter 4. I'm going to start in Matthew, but you don't have to turn there. But go ahead and go to Mark chapter 4. So Matthew, Mark. If you go to Luke, you went a little too far, so come on back. We're going to be in Mark chapter 4, and if you have your YouVersion Bible app, just open that up, click More, and then Events, and then you can follow along with all of today's notes and Scripture right there inside the YouVersion Bible app as well. And so if you're watching on Facebook, thank you guys for joining us live as well. But Jesus, sometimes there's this statement that Jesus gives in Matthew chapter 10 that sort of frames out what we're going to talk about today. Today we're ending this series called Restore My Soul. We've been there for about 6 or 7 weeks. We took 1 week break there, but we're going to end this series today, and we've been talking about what it means to have restoration for our souls. And then today, we're just going to wrap this up with, I said something last week, we'll get to that in a minute. I said something last week that we'll just cover again in a moment, but I want to unpack that together a little deeper today. But in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus sort of gives this somewhat of an odd statement to his disciples. He's about to send them out. He's about to send the 12 out on mission, and so they're about to leave and start to travel a little bit and preach and teach and do some ministry out on their own. And right before he sends them out, Matthew chapter 10 is all Jesus just kind of giving them some last minute instructions, some last minute encouragement, if you will. And then he says this in verse 39 of Matthew 10. He says this, he says, "Whoever finds his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I read the words of Jesus and I'm like, that sounds amazing. That's awesome. Yes. And then I go, but what does it mean? Right? Like it's kind of confusing a little bit. So sometimes you just have to slow down and read it again. So it says this again, whoever finds his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Now, the Message translation of the Bible is really good. It's sort of a paraphrase. I like it a lot of times because it kind of gives us a little bit of a clearer picture sometimes of what the Scripture says. And so I want to read you what Eugene Peterson in the Message translation writes about this verse. He sort of frames it like this. He says this. He says, if your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. And then he goes on this, and he says, but if you forget about yourself and you look to me, Jesus, you'll find both yourself and me. And so what is it then that Jesus is saying? What does all of this mean when we put it together? Very simply, here's what Jesus is saying. It's actually really simple. Let go. Let go. Let go. And you're thinking, well, that's great. Let go. Let go of what? Like, how am I supposed to let go? I mean, what does that even mean? How am I supposed to let go? Simply said, here's what is happening, because maybe we need a little bit more. He means to let go of control and trust him. Let go of control and trust him. Now, if we're all being honest, whether you're watching online or you're in here in the room, if we're all being honest, we all have a tinge of control freak inside of us, right? Like, let's just be honest. I know we're in church, we don't do that often, but let's be honest for just a moment. Like, we all have a little bit of a control freak inside of all of us. Now, some of us are a little more control freak than others, right? You know who you are, right? Don't point at them, but you know who you are, right? And so controlling things It's just a part of how we are. It's just we want to be in control. We don't like the feeling of being out of control. We want to be in control. We want to control things around us. We want to control our lives, to say. But to live a life, this is what Jesus is saying. He's saying, I actually want you to live a life opposite of this. I want you to live a life where you are actually not in control, but you are trusting me because I am in control. We all sort of have that perceived control feeling, don't we? This perception that we control things, this perception that we have control over our lives. But Jesus says, this is what he's saying. He says in Matthew 10, he says, whoever finds his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, in other words, whoever puts his life into my hands, out of your hands. See, it's not that thing where, like when you hold on to something and you give it to somebody, but you're still holding on to it. Like, it's not that thing. It's like putting it into his hands and actually just letting go of it. He says if we do this, he's saying that we'll see him like never before and we will be able to trust him like never before. And so here's why we're talking about letting go to wrap up this series. Last week, I sort of said this thing kind of off to the side a little bit, and I realized that it was kind of one of those side jabs that everybody was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that, but what do we do with that? And so we were talking last week as we were getting to the end of the series, we were talking about Sabbath. And we were talking about being able to have rest not only for our soul, but rest for our mind, rest mentally, rest for our body, because God actually has built into the way that you and I are created, He has actually built into us a Sabbath, rest for our soul and rest for our body. And so we looked at that very practically and said, here's how we actually do that. Here's how the Bible tells us that we can actually do that for ourselves. But in that, I said this. I said, the reason why we don't take Sabbath seriously, and the reason why we don't Sabbath, which, by the way, that word Sabbath just simply means to stop. The reason why we don't take it seriously and the reason why we do it or don't do it is because ultimately we don't trust God. That's why we don't rest. Because in a weird, odd way, we think that we need to be in control of everything. Every bit of our lives, we need to be in control of it. And we are the ones that are actually holding all of that together. And that's why I call it a perception of control. It's actually just an illusion of control. But we like to think that, right? We like to think somehow that God needs our help running the world. We like to think that, you know what, if I sleep, if I rest, if I don't check email, if I don't respond to text messages, if I don't respond on social media, if I don't post things and let people know that I'm alive and kicking and everything's going well, and if I don't do these things, like somebody's going to wonder, like, what's happening to me? Like, I can't rest, I can't slow down, like, I can't take days off, I can't do any of that, like, I got to keep going. And God's like, no, you don't, because I got this. You can actually rest. And so the reason why we don't rest is because we don't trust. We don't trust that God actually has it. So I don't always share with you guys the title of my message. I always title messages and we put them online like that. But I thought it would be really simple for us to just title the message so you know what it is, because it's going to make sense for you here in just a moment. But here's the title of today's message. It's simple. Let go. I'm not good at naming things. Let go. Actually, the full title is just Let Go and Trust. Let go and trust. It's easier said than done for most of us, isn't it? To let go and trust. It's an easy thing for us to say. It's an even easy thing for us to sit in here this morning and go, yeah, let go and trust. Okay, let's do that. Like, it's easy for us to say that. It's not always easily done. When I was in college, I had a group of friends that we hung out with a lot and did a lot of things with. And one summer, while we were on break, during summer break in between semesters, this group of friends, they were all like from around close to here, somewhere around here, somewhere from places like Powell or La Follette or Halls and different places like that. And of course, I grew up kind of in this area, but we thought we'd do something a little different that summer. We thought we would just kind of do one thing from each person's like area of town that they kind of grew up in or came from, if they were from around here. And so we took a couple of weeks where when we were hanging out, that's what we did. Like everybody took a turn. So, we did this over there. Like this one guy, he was from Hall, so we went and ate burgers at Litton's and like that kind of thing. So we all did something a little bit different. Well, when it came my turn, I thought, it's like, this is what I'm going to do. It was summertime. It was a nice day outside. And I said, here's what we're doing. We're going to the rope swing. I'm taking you all to the rope swing. Now, if you are from around here, you might know where that rope swing is. By law, I'm not actually allowed to tell you where that rope swing is. I can't let you get hurt. So, but there is a rope swing in the area not too far from here at a lake, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so I got them all together, and I said, guys, we're going to the rope swing. So we all go to the rope swing. We hike through the woods. We get to the rope swing. Now, here's the thing. At the rope swing, it's about a 20, 25-foot drop, which doesn't sound like a lot until you're actually on it, and then it is a lot. But that's at the low level. There's actually a little platform that's kind of built up the hill a little bit that you can kind of walk up to the top and get on this platform, and you actually swing out a little bit higher and drop down into the water, and then you just climb back up. And it was a lot of fun. We used to do that quite a bit. So, in fact, I had this friend named Sean. Sean was this guy who was, you probably know, everybody probably has a Sean in their life. If you don't have a Sean in your life, you're probably the Sean. So Sean was that guy who was just always like, what we doing? Let's go. I'm in. All right. I'll go first. Like he was always that guy, like up for everything. Didn't matter what it was. Like he always wanted to go first. He was just the daredevil guy. But here's the thing about Sean. Sean, although looked very fit and athletic, Sean was not coordinated. He was not athletic. He was just that guy who worked out a lot. And, was like very fit, but like you don't pick Sean on your team to play sports. That kind of guy. So Sean is there, and we get to the rope swing, and he's like, give me the rope. Let's go. Let's do this thing. And I'm like, hey, let me hold on a minute, man. Like just for a second, like let me tell you like what you need to do here. Like, you don't need to go to the top. Like start down here at the bottom. And when you swing out and you get to the pinnacle of your swing, let go. Let go. Like that's what you got. He's like, yeah, man, no problem. I got this, no big deal. And so Sean, like he gets back and he pulls the rope back and he's about to take off and jump. And he kind of looks. And he's like, nah, man, that ain't good enough. And so he goes to the top. And I'm like, Sean, what are you doing? He goes to the top. So he gets to the top and on the count of 3, like he just swings out like he's auditioning for The Greatest Showman. Like he is out, like gets to the pinnacle of his swing. And I'm just like, Sean, let go. Sean did not let go. Sean got to the pinnacle of his swing, looked down, and was like, yeah, and just gripped tighter. Have you ever seen or remember those Looney Tune cartoons when Bugs Bunny smacks into a wall and slides down really slowly? Well, this is what happened to Sean. Sean doesn't let go, comes back, smacks into the tree, and literally slides down the tree very slowly till he gets to the bottom, and I'm standing and I go, Sean, let go. He was still holding on to the rope. He was just like, I should have let go. You got to let go. You got to let go. Hey, everybody on the count of 3 say let go. 1, 2, 3. Let go. Let go. You got to let go. Listen, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how when we're feeling anxious or fearful of things, like when that begins to grip us, how instead of actually letting go, what we actually do is grip tighter. It's like when we feel like our life is starting to kind of spin out of control a little bit. We feel like the job isn't going very well, when we feel like the relationship's not working out very well, when we feel like this or that or whatever is not going very well, we start to get anxious, when we start to get fearful, what we tend to do is instead of actually letting go and trusting God, is we just go, I got this. I ain't letting go. I'm going to hold on. Not going to let go of this. You ever seen a baby, like when a baby kind of gets old enough that like when it just latches on to you? Madison, you know what I'm talking about? Like just latches onto you, won't let go, right? Everybody look, there's Maverick, he's over there, he's good. I'm just kidding. Everybody go, aw. Okay. But like when they just won't let go. My daughter, hey Em, my daughter, she hates it when I do this, but it makes sense. But she was so good at this. Like when she was little, like she would latch on to me and I could like walk around like this. Like she was in a baby Bjorn, you know? And like, but there wasn't one. Like a little Monchichi. That's what I called her. It's like my little Monchichi, right? Because she just latch on. Like, but that's what happens, right? And that's what we do. Is we just latch on and we don't let go. And we're just like, you gotta let go. You gotta let go. We gotta know that this is us. We don't like giving up the feeling of being in control. We want to be in control. But the truth of the matter is control is simply an illusion. My son Isaiah, when he was born, I told a lot of y'all know this story, but when he was born, you know, my wife and son, they were it was not good. They had to rush my son to Children's Hospital, and Daenerys was having issues. And so it was touch and go for her. It was touch and go for our son, and for Isaiah. And so they, the doctors even told us, they were like, as they took him, they're like, I don't know if he's going to make it. Rushing over to Children's Hospital, I'm hoping and praying and trusting that what's happening back at the hospital with my wife is that God is taking care of that. But then when I get to the hospital and I see my son and I see him there, and I'm thinking to myself, there's literally nothing I can do about this. Like I want to do something about this. Like I don't know if you're like me or not, but like I had the tendency to quote unquote fix things, which is a translation of things, right, men? But I couldn't. There was nothing I could fix. There was nothing I could do. I was completely and totally out of control in that moment. But I will never forget this. I remember just the still small voice of God just speak to me saying, I got this. You got to trust me. You got to trust me. You see, culture tells us that we need to be in control, that we are in control of our own futures, that we are in control of our own destinies, that we have to make our own way, that we have to make our own path. And there's some truth to that. There's good hard work and all that stuff that goes into that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that and that we shouldn't give that. But like, what if your quote unquote really smart friend on Facebook who posts all those memes that sound really smart about doing those things, what if they actually don't know what they're talking about? Like, what if those are actually wrong? You are the captain of your own soul. You are the maker of your own way. Listen, you sang to God that He is the what? Waymaker. Guess who is not the waymaker? Me. He is. Why? Because he wants us to be reminded that He is in control. I want to show you a really quick story in Mark chapter 4 where Jesus reminds everyone, which ultimately reminds us of who is in control and that we can trust Him. Mark chapter 4, verse 35, Jesus has been in this season of ministry. He's been traveling. He's been speaking to these crowds, and he's just like, you know what, I got to get away from the crowds. I need rest for my own soul. And so he tells his disciples, he says, we're going to go out on the boat in the lake and go to the other side. And so they're in a boat. They're heading across the water, going to the other side. We're going to pick it up in chapter 4, verse 35. It says this. It says, "On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, he says, 'Let us go across to the other side.' And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. And other boats were with him, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him, and they said, 'Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?'" Translation, "Don't you care that we're sinking?" "And he awoke, and he rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, 'Peace, be still.' And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, 'Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?' And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, 'Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?'" Now, you have to understand the context of this, because this storm had to be huge. It had to be massive. A lot of these disciples, a lot of these guys that were with Jesus, they grew up on the water. They were fishermen. They knew what it was like to be in a storm. You know, I mean, if you've ever been out in the water when a storm comes, there are storms where it's like, oh, look, it's raining, it's storming, we should get back. And then there are, I'm going to cuss a lot until I get back on dry land kind of storms. You know what I'm talking about? That was one of these. It was a massive storm. And the waves are starting to overtake the boat. It's starting to sink. And so the disciples, naturally, they start to get worried. They start to get afraid. They start to get fearful. They start to think to themselves, who is actually in control of this? And so they go down, and Jesus is asleep on the cushion. And listen, I believe that he meant to be asleep. Understand this. Jesus is God. He was not surprised by the storm. He knew the storm was coming. He knew what was happening around him, but he's asleep. He's asleep. And so the disciples, they come down and they wake him up and they're like, "Jesus, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but hey, you're floating at this point. Like we're about to die. Don't you care about us?" You ever said that to God? God, why is this happening to me? What are you doing? Don't you care about me? Don't you see what's happening in my life right now? Don't you see this storm? Don't you see the way that I'm suffering? Don't you see the way that I'm hurting? Don't you see how sad I am? Don't you see how sad and hurt that they are? God, what are you doing here? Don't you even care? And so they wake him up. And Jesus doesn't get mad at the disciples. He doesn't rebuke them. He doesn't get mad. Why does he get mad at them? Because he knew. He knew that they were going to come and wake him up. Jesus was sleeping because he was absolutely in control. He wasn't afraid of the storm. You see, you have to understand this, that Jesus with you changes everything. Jesus with us eliminates the need to be in control, because the one who controls the storm is actually in control. You ever been around somebody that doesn't panic? You know what I'm talking about? Like people that are just like even-keeled and calm all the time. This past summer, the greatest fear of my life happened. I was at home. I was working. I was upstairs at the kitchen table. My kids were downstairs playing. They had some friends over. My son comes running up the stairs. He comes into the dining room where I'm sitting at the table, and he comes in there and he goes, "Dad, you're not going to be happy." I'm like, "What? What's going on?" And he's just like white-faced, like worried. And I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? He's like, "You're going to be so mad. You're going to be like, oh, I don't even want to tell you." I'm just like, what is going on? Like, is the house on fire? Like, what's happening? And he goes, "There's a snake in the house." I was like, what? And it wasn't like what, like W-H-T, it was like W-U-T. Like it was what? Like, huh? And he's like, yeah, there's a snake in your office downstairs. I was like, you better be joking right now, right? Like, don't be kidding, don't be playing, but you better be joking. He's like, I'm not joking. So I go down the stairs, and I'm already like, okay, I don't know if you know this about me. If you don't know this, like, I have an irrational fear of snakes. Completely, totally irrational. I know it's irrational. Get off me. Like, it just is what it is. This is the way that God has made me, okay? So, like, God has made you the way He's made you. He's made me the way He's made me. So I go downstairs, and I like, peek into the room. I don't go in the room. I ain't dumb. I peek into the room, and I'm like, where's it at? I don't see a snake. But my kids are actually in the room. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's right there. It's like, where? So I look, and right there is the scaly beast. It's like this big. About that big around. But I ain't messing with it. I don't do snakes. I don't do snakes. There's a reason Jesus called Satan a snake. I don't do snakes. And so there it is, up against the wall, just kind of hanging out right there, and I'm like panicking. I'm already starting to think, how much insurance policy do we have when I burn this house down and we move, or like we're out of here? So I pick up the phone and I start calling like critter getters. You know, those people that like come and get like critters, you know, out. So I finally get in touch with one of them. I'm like, hey, I got this snake in the house, and I need you to come get it. And he's like, well, what kind of snake is it? I'm like, bro, I don't know what kind of snake it is. It's a snake. Stop asking so many questions. Come and get the snake. And he's like, he starts to explain to me. He's like, look, like, here's the deal. Here's what, I don't care what you got to do. Like, I don't like, and he's like, here's how, I don't care how much it is. Just come. And I sent my wife a text. I was like, there's a snake in the house, you know. And she's like, well, what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? I called you. Like, come and get the snake. So the critter getter is like, hey, man, like, I can't get there today. I'm like, well, then I ain't, like, bye. Like, you know, just like, that's it. So I call a couple of others, can't get in touch with anybody. So finally I was like, I call my brother. My brother owns a landscaping business. Was hoping that maybe he was kind of close around town. So I call my brother up. I call him. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing? He's like, I'm, you know, just finishing up some yards. I was like, where you at? He's like, I'm close. I was like, oh, awesome. That's great. Hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to come to my house and get a snake out of my house. And he goes, I don't know why you calling me. I'm like, don't you eat these things? Like, come and like get like this snake out of my house. He's like, I don't mess with snakes. He's like, I don't know who you think you're talking to. He's like, I don't mess with snakes. I'm like, don't you have workers that work for you? Like, pay them to come and get, like, I'll pay them to come and get the snake. So finally, long story short, he gets one of his workers. They come over, and like, here's the thing. Like, I'm like panicking. I'm like freaking out. Like, this little snake is in there. This dude walks into the house. He's like, heard you got a snake. Yep. Downstairs in that room down there. So I'm like walking down there, like he just walks in there. It's back behind, like it's in the closet back there now. So he like moves some boxes around. He finds it. It's there. It's just laying in the floor. And he's like, there it is. I know. Like, what are you going to do about it? And so like, but this is the kind of thing, like this guy was just so calm. Like he didn't care. He just reaches down, grabs it, chunks it out in the yard. Well, over the fence. I was like, throw it over the fence, like way out there. Like he didn't care. Like he was just so calm. Like didn't matter to him. But I'm like freaking out. I'm panicking. I'm freaking out. And I'm like, I'm trying to take control of the situation. I was not in control. I was not. But when you've ever been around somebody that just has a calm to them, like this was Jesus, right? Like the disciples, they're all freaking out. They're worried about the storm. They're worried about the water going to sink the boat. They come and wake Jesus up, and Jesus is like, I don't know who y'all think was in this boat, but it wasn't going to sink. And so he gets up and he rebukes the waves. You see, rebuke is what you do when something is beneath you in power. Parents, use that on your children later today. Rebuke is is what happens. You can only rebuke something that is beneath you in power. And he steps out and he says to the wind and the waves, he just says, "Peace, be still." And this calm comes over the whole storm. Calm the storm. Like, he didn't have to conjure up any kind of special power because he is power. And then I love the response of the disciples. The disciples, they take a step back. Look at this here at the end. It says, and they were filled with great fear. That phrase, great fear, it doesn't mean fear like afraid, although I do think that there was a little tinge of being afraid of who this guy was at this point. But that word fear is actually awe. They were filled with awe, like took a step back and they said, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him?" Who is this guy? Like, the wind and the waves are beneath him. He controls them. He tells them to stop. He tells them to rise. He tells them to go away. Who is this guy? In the book of Mark here, the writer of the book of Mark tells 3 stories right here in this same section. These 3 stories of how Jesus heals a person who was possessed by a demon, how he cast a demon out. There's a story about how Jesus heals a woman. And then there's a story about how Jesus raises this girl from the dead. All of these stories, you got to understand all of these stories in the context. Look at what is beneath Jesus. Satan, disease, death, and weather are all beneath him, are all under his authority. That he is in control of all of these things. And look, every single one of us in the room, we think that we actually control all of these things. Because here's what we do. We're like, you know what? I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to live my life this way. I ain't never going to get sick. You're going to get sick. You know what? Like I'm just going to, if I do this and if I do that, if I input this and I input that and I do this, like I'm going to live forever. No, bro, you're going to die at some point. And listen, I don't say that to like cast a shadow over us here and be like doomsday, but listen, we all know that the mortality rate is 100%, right? Like, we all get that. Yeah? But yet, like, even the weather, right? Where it's like, well, look, and listen, this is not a political statement at all. We're like, if we just pull back on the emissions and gases and all that stuff, like, we can kind of get this weather thing under control. Good luck. Not saying that we shouldn't, not saying that we should. It's not a political statement at all. I'm just saying we don't control those things. We don't. And yet, Jesus does. God does. And the disciples, they take a step back and they realize that, yes, he does. And so when we realize who is with us, all of our seemingly what we think are rational fears become irrational. So this is why Jesus says, anyone who finds his life will lose it. If you hold on to it, there's no real life there. But if you place your life in my hands, if you let go and give up control and let me be in control, those who lose their life, give up control, and trust me and follow me for my sake, those are the ones who get life. And so if we really want to be in control, we have to give up control. I love what the writer of Proverbs says here in Proverbs 3. He says this, look at this with me. He says this, he says, trust in the Lord with part of your heart. Rob, is that no, not part of your heart? Okay. Trust in the Lord with some of your heart. We still not there? Okay. What's it say? Trust in the Lord with what? with all of your heart. And then listen to this, because this is really important. The person writing this proverb gets it and understands it in a way that you and I don't understand it. Because he follows it up. He says this next. He says, and do not lean on your own understanding. Because we all got it figured out, don't we? It says, don't lean on your own understanding. But look what it says next. But in all of your ways. Not in some of your ways, not in part of your ways, not in the ones that actually feel safe to you, but even in the ones that feel completely and totally irrationally unsafe. He says, in all of your ways, acknowledge him. And who is him? God. And listen to this promise. If we do that, this is what he promises to us. He will make straight your paths. He will make straight your paths. And be not wise in your own eyes, but fear the Lord. Again, not like be afraid of God in that sense, but have an awe and a reverence of the Lord. That he is a waymaker and a promise keeper, and that he is the one who actually can make straight our paths. That he is the one who actually can calm the storm. That he can heal from disease. That he can patch what is broken. That he can put back together what has been shattered. And turn away from evil, he says. And then let's finish it up in verse 8. He says, if we do this, listen, it will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. What a promise. What a promise. Listen, Jesus is who he says he is. And he rules and he reigns, and all authority has been given to him. He is in control. And because he is in control, there is rest for your soul. You don't have to control everything. How tiring is it to feel like you have to control everything? It's exhausting. So do you trust him? Do you trust him? I love what I'll end with this. I love what Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8. He says, Paul sort of explains his plight, if you will, and how he's just giving control over to the Lord. He says this, he says, we do not want to be unaware, brothers, of the affliction we experienced in Asia. For we were so utterly burdened. You're like, affliction, that doesn't sound that bad, right? He says, but we were so utterly burdened beyond our strength that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, listen, indeed, we felt that we had received the sentence of death. So what was happening to Paul traveling with him? Paul said, like, this was so bad that we felt like we were dying. Like, this was it. This was the end. He says, but the reason why we felt that way, he says, that was to make us rely not on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. He delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us. And on him we have set our hope that he will deliver us again. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go with the guy that raises dead. Like, ultimately, that's where I want my life to be, is right there in the hands of the one who has authority over disease and death and wind and waves and everything else. And so again, this is what Jesus is saying. Trust me. Like, I got this. Like, the weight of the things that you're carrying and trying to control and trying to navigate and figure out, like I'm gonna make straight your paths in that if you'll just trust me. I'm gonna give you a vision. I'm gonna give you a way. I'm gonna show you the way through this if you'll trust me. And listen, because maybe you're thinking, you're like, okay, well that's great, and I'm gonna trust him, but like, I've been trusting and the storm ain't over. Listen, Jesus didn't promise to necessarily keep you from the storm, but he has promised to get you through the storm. He will calm it. He will calm it. You're like, well, when is when? Let's go. I don't know when, but he will calm it. We have to trust him. And so do you trust him with your life, your whole life? Not just bits and pieces and parts, but with your life. Will you pray with me? Father, thank you for your word this morning. God, thank you for how you just get to the heart of our soul. God, we pray this morning across the room, God, wherever this is being heard, God, that for those of us, God, who are struggling with putting our life into your hands and taking our hands off of it, God, would you just give us a freedom that we've never had before, that says, God, this life is yours. And God, in a moment by moment, minute by minute, if it takes second by second basis, God, that you remind us that we can trust you with our whole life. It's in your name we pray. Amen. We stand to your feet as we sing together, as we take communion together this morning as followers of Christ. We want to take the body and the blood, the bread and the juice that reminds us that even in the crucifixion of Jesus, what looked to be something that was completely spinning out of control, that God was still in control. And so we take communion together this morning as a reminder of that. But before you come to the table, whether it's back in that corner here or right here, before you come to the table this morning, that you take a few minutes to just do work with the Lord, to pray, to repent and to turn from and to turn to and to lay down at his feet whatever it is, what stands between you and him, and trusting him. That you lay it there. And you walk away. Stop taking it with you. So let's sing together.
I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled.